Sorry about that, everybody. I had muted myself. So welcome to today's session. My name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at Exostar. I am going to give 2 minutes for people who might be running a little late a chance to join up. So please bear with me. I appreciate your patience, and we'll go ahead and get started at 2 minutes past the hour. Hello again, everybody. For those of you who may have just joined us, I'm going to give 1 more minute for people who might be running a little late a chance to join. So please bear with me. I appreciate your patience, and we'll go ahead and get started in 1 minute. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. So once again, my name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions here at Exostar, and thanks for joining me today for leveraging policies to address NIST and CMMC security gaps. Today, we're going to be talking about the Exostar application Policy Pro. If you'd like to follow along while David does his demonstration of Policy Pro, you can sign up for a free trial. You see the URL there. If you go there, it takes about 2 minutes to sign up. I'm doing a kind of an intro and where we are in the CMMC rulemaking process, so you'll have plenty of time to sign up for that trial if you'd like to. But even if you don't, anytime after today, if you'd like to try out Policy Pro, see how it works for you, feel free to kick off that free trial. So just a few housekeeping details today. Today's webinar is scheduled to last 45 minutes to an hour, and that does include Q&A. The questions were, we actually didn't have any questions submitted prior to today's event. So if you'd like, you can submit questions via the chat, and I'll go ahead and answer those at the end. If we do have an outage, just please wait for a minute and try and refresh the page. You can also use the link you receive via email at any time to try and reconnect. This webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on demand via the Exostar resource library. That can be found at www.exostar.com/resources anytime after today's event. You'll also receive an email follow-up with both the slide deck from today's presentation as well as a link to the recording. If you'd like to speak with one of our industry experts, if for some reason you lose that link or the slide deck itself as well, you can reach out to us at cmmc-team@exostar.com. Or if you go to our website, www.exostar.com, there's live chat there on every page, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have via that medium as well. So as I mentioned, my name is Kevin Hancock, Director of Solutions at Exostar, and I'm joined by David Rowe, Exostar's partner from ISMS Solutions. David, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is David Rowe. I'm the Business Development Manager here at ISMS Applications. Thank you, Kevin, for letting me show the demo of the platform.
Thank you, David. All right, everybody. As I mentioned, I'm just going to first cover a little bit about where we are in the CMMC rulemaking process. So, as you know, or hopefully, as you know, the final rule was published on 10/16/2024. That kicked off a 60-day period where that rule is then going to be, becomes final after those 60 days. This follows that draft rule being published back in December 26th of 2023. That kicked off the public comment period for that, and now that brought us to this final rule being published in October. Now, there is still one additional step, right? There is another code of federal regulation, 48 CFR, that needs to be finalized. That rule, that proposed rule for that 48 CFR came out on August 15th of 2024. Now, and we're waiting for that now to be finalized. If in looking at the community, we fully expect CMMC to be fully, if you will, finalized and be ready to be implemented in early 2025. Now, what this means is that we're going to move from a self-attestation model to a third-party assessment model, except for those organizations that will either fall under CMMC level 1, or if you get a contract that allows you to do self-assessment. Now, please understand that self-assessments will not be able to be requested from the contractor. The contracting officer will make that part of the contract when the contract is let out for bid. Couple other things to keep in mind as you utilize third parties to help you meet the NIST 800-171 requirements. If you're utilizing a cloud service, then that cloud service must be FedRAMP moderate or FedRAMP moderate equivalent. Now, these are cloud services that you utilize to store, process, or transmit controlled unclassified information. If you're utilizing an external service provider, think of your MSP or MSSP that you might have engaged to either augment a portion of your IT staff, or they're performing some functions that an IT staff might provide for you. Maybe you've outsourced some monitoring things like that. They don't those external service providers, if they handle CUI, that organization doesn't have to be CMMC certified. However, if they handle CUI as part of your overall process flow of CUI, then that portion will be assessed as part of your overall CMMC assessment. Now, just to refresh everybody kind of what CMMC is, right? So CMMC is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. It's got 3 levels, and depending where you fall in these 3 levels depends kind of what requirements you need to meet. So if you're an organization that doesn't handle controlled unclassified information, you don't create it, then you're going to be a level 1. And in that case, there are 15 requirements that you have to meet because you receive FCI, federal contract information. You're going to have to do an annual self-assessment and do an annual affirmation that you do actually do those 15 requirements. If you receive, process, transmit, or store controlled unclassified information, then your organization is going to be level 2. In those cases, you're going to have to meet the NIST 800-171 requirements. And the new thing with CMMC is that once every 3 years, you're going to have a third party come out and assess how you actually implement those 110 controls of NIST 800-171, that you've got the evidence that you do those things, that your staff is trained in how you do those things, etc. And then if you get, level 3, which is considered high controlled unclassified information, then there are additional controls you'll have to have in place. Not only NIST 800-171, but there are additional controls from NIST 800-172 that you'll also have to have in place. You'll also have to affirm yearly that you do all these things. And if for some reason, when you go to do that third-party assessment, if you haven't got all of your controls actually complete or the assessor finds something, it's going to be limited on what you can actually have not done, right? You can only have certain controls are available to be not completed yet. If you have one of those, once the assessment is completed, you'll have 180 days to close that, what's called a POAM, a plan of action and milestone. And then that same third party will have to come out, ensure that you do that things, and that at that point you'll actually receive, your certification. Now, when CMMC does take effect, it's going to be implemented in a phased-in approach. That first phase is a year long, right? And that's going to be really kind of where we are today. So you're going to require a level 1 or level 2 self-assessment. And that's going to be that initial 12 months. However, after that, that'll be when phase 2 kicks off. And that's where you're going to start to see level 2 certification be required within DoD contracts. Phase 3 will start to bring in level 3 certification. You'll start to see level 2 certification be required in extensions of contracts. And then in phase 4 will be full implementation. So there's a 3-year implementation period. But keep in mind, just because right now during phase 1 and that initial implementation, it says self-assessments, that kind of blue line at there at the bottom. In some procurements, DoD may implement CMMC requirements in advance of the planned phases. And it'll all depend on the program itself. I took this implementation phases directly from the DoD website. The link is there here on the site, so you'll see the same implementation chart to help you figure out kind of where you're going to fall. Now, because CMMC is going to take effect in 2025, but there are still things you need to do today that are wrapped around NIST 800-171. So if you've got DoD contracts today and you've got the DFARS clauses, Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation clauses 7012, 70 or 7019, there are things you've agreed to already, right? One of those things was 7012. 7012 said that you must meet NIST 800-171 requirements around your company if you store, process, or transmit controlled unclassified information. If you've got 7019 clauses, you should have performed a self-assessment, or you should be performing a self-assessment of how you've done in the implementation of those controls. There's a scoring system that's part of NIST 800-171A. That's the assessment guide for NIST 800-171. That takes you through each of the controls. It gives you a score of what you give yourself if you've implemented that particular control, or what you deduct if you haven't. And that score is either a 1, a 3, or a 5. So your score is going to range somewhere between a -203 and 110. If you've got that 7019 clause, you then go into the Supplier Performance Risk System. That's that SPRS thing that you see up there on the slide, and enter in your current score of how you've done in implementing NIST 800-171. So please be aware, right? CMMC is coming, right? The DoD has been very firm in this over the last really 7 years, and we are moving forward. And in kind of my view of the current community and the communication that's coming down, we expect to see this implemented within 2025, and that'll kick off that implementation period that I've already spoken about. Now, to help you get there, right, Exostar has a number of different applications. And the one we're going to talk about today is Exostar's Policy Pro. What this does is provide you a set of templates across those 14 control families that allow you to build out the policies that your organization needs to implement NIST 800-171 controls. You can take these templates and customize them to fit, the way you do these things, the tools, the processes, procedures, etc., that you've implemented, including those roles and permissions across your organization. If you've already built these policies, because many of us have cybersecurity policies in place today, many of us are already monitoring the workstations we provide to people. We've already got groups and permissions, et cetera, set across those. If you've already got those policies in place, Policy Pro also allows you to take those existing policies that you have, maybe tweak them to fit better NIST 800-171, or just take them as they are and also run them through Policy Pro to get feedback on how close you are to what is necessary for NIST 800-171. So it'll run through Policy Pro's AI engine. It'll give you what's called a Kenny score, and David will cover this as part of his presentation. And that gives you keywords, indicators of what you may need to do to improve that overall policy to kind of fit what NIST 800-171 is looking for. It allows you to build up that policy library that you're going to need to to show those assessors when they come on site, that says, hey, look, these are our overarching policies across these 14 control families. You'll also have to show kind of the implementation statements of how you actually implement that good work. You'll also have to be able to provide a body of evidence on how you actually do that, kind of what you just said, screenshots, how you've trained your folks, and they may interview people as well to see if they understand what they're doing in actually implementing those policies that you have in place. Policy Pro itself is a SaaS-based solution, so that's offered out as a service by Exostar. That also means that it will continually be improved and implemented along with the changes that occur within NIST 800-171, because there will be changes, right? There'll be changes to CMMC, there'll be changes to NIST 800-171, and you want that application that's going to grow with you. And as Policy Pro is offered out as a service, as those things change, it'll be updated and rolled out to the users itself. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David to go ahead and show you how this all works. David, take it away.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, so as Kevin mentioned, I'll be covering a quick demo of Exostar's Policy Pro. It is a SaaS-based platform designed to help you and your organization get compliant around the various requirements, including the NIST 800-171, as well as CMMC version 2. Regardless of where your organization is in your cybersecurity journey, maybe you're just getting started out and you have really no idea where to begin, so you don't have any of those policies and procedures that Kevin talked about, and you know that your organization does need to eventually become compliant with CMMC, or maybe your organization is further along and you already have all of your existing policies in place. Regardless of where you are, the platform will be able to help assist you through that process. We'll go ahead and get started with our Policy Builder tool, and this is really the first step in your process to help you get on that journey and ensure that you have all of those policies in place within your organization. The first time through on the platform, you'll receive this pop-up here, and it's a brief explanation of what policies are, as well as some of the other documents your organization should have or will need to create as part of this process. For example, it includes documents such as your gap assessments, your risk register, your POAM, which is that plan of action and milestones, as well as your SSP, your system security plan, If you don't have any of those documents, we do provide some simple templates to those various documents. You can select the hyperlink to download them and start working on them. If you need some further assistance and guidance, particularly on the POAM SSP as well as the SPUR score, you can check out the companion product called Certification Assistant, and Kevin will talk further on about that product along with the bundle in a little bit after this demo here. But once you've gotten all of that ready here, you'll then close out of that and you will come to our Prepare, Gather, and Consult page. Every policy domain will have this Prepare, Gather, and Consult, and it will help you in order to know exactly what sort of information you need to prepare prior to even getting started with the policy templates themselves. For example, it could include things like gathering your organization's documents, records, and other materials related to these various access control topics. Additionally, who you may want to consult with, whether they are internal or external stakeholders. For example, it could include people like your network administrator, head of IT, or CISO, and then any sort of outside contractors if you do utilize them. So those would include your MSPs, your MSSPs, and IT consultants. They would also be involved as you're creating an access control policy. Once you're ready to get started, you'll click on that button there, and that will take you to our policy template. All of our policy templates are broken out into a couple different sections. We've got the header, which includes your organization name, the department or departments this policy falls under, the issue date for when you finalize the document, approved by, and the tracking number. The tracking number can be used in a number of ways. However, most people use it to keep track of the version number. So as you work on revisions and updates to your policy, which you should be doing on a regular and periodic basis. So as you do that, you'll update that number accordingly. The other sections include the purpose, the scope, and the individual practices here. And this is where the bulk of your work is going to be done. Before moving on to the practices, however, I did want to also mention if you need assistance with the NFO and NCO controls, we do have those available as well. So if you click here right above the practices, that'll take you to the NFO and NCO control templates. Moving on to the practices, for today's demo, I am showing the level 2 example. So there's going to be 110 different practices associated with those 14 policy domains. And there's a couple key pieces of information here. The first part here is the practice ID number. In this case, it's access control 3.1.1. Next to that is the practice description. So limiting information system access to authorized users and processes acting on behalf of authorized users or devices. Underneath that are the guidelines, and the guidelines will help you understand exactly what sort of information is typically included within that particular practice, as well as in plain English explain exactly what that practice is about. Once you're ready to begin, you'll click on this pencil icon here located on the right-hand side, and that's going to bring up our policy template for 3.1.1. A couple notes as you're working through these policies. One, ensure you're reading through the entirety of the template. What's written here should reflect what your organization has implemented or what your organization plans to implement in the future based off your policies. Also, you'll notice a couple areas where you should pay particular attention to and customize as you're working through these documents. And we'll walk through a couple examples here together. So in the first paragraph, it says all account creations will be submitted by the requesting department manager to the IT support email address for completion using the account request ticketing system or other process. So there, depending on if you are utilizing a ticketing system or if not, whatever other process it is you're utilizing to actually process and create those accounts, that's what you want to make sure to fill in that section there. So again, very important to customize these based off what it is you're actually implementing for these particular controls within your organization. I did also want to mention recently we've added a number of enhancements and improvements to the platform, in particular the policy building aspects, so that you can more effectively collaborate and more efficiently work together with team members, whether they're internal to your organization or maybe external to your organization. So even in the free trial, you can add additional users. Maybe you are currently working with an MSP and you want to add them to work collaboratively with your policies. You can certainly do that. And like I said, there's a number of features to help you as you're doing that work, including mentions, as you can see here. So you can use that @ symbol and start typing the user's name. And that'll show them the notification that this particular section needs another look at. You can also add comments as well. So you can ask questions to other members of your team that are working on the policies together and add additional comments. There's a number of other productivity enhancements to the policy builder, but we're not going to cover all of those. Just note that there's some additional new features, especially if you took a look at Policy Pro in the past. Definitely check out some of our new features there. We've also added this recently as well, which is the version history. So if I click on version history, I'll see my most recent version here on the right-hand side, as well as any previous versions. You can go back to a previous version if you need to, or you can just use this as a way to track your changes over time. So you get that nice little body of evidence that you are periodically reviewing and updating your policies, and it's all tracked here in version history. You'll see any comments here made by other people, as well as who made the last recent updates. So as you make those changes, it'll timestamp it as well as the user, so you can keep track of which practices have been worked on and which ones still need to be continued to work on. You can also reset the practice back to the original template by clicking on that reset button located next to the pencil icon. And that's going to simply reset that individual practice. And any other sections you worked on will have those changes still there. So it is on a practice or section by section basis that you're working on these documents. Once you've made all of the changes you need to make, you're going to click on this export button here on the bottom. And that's going to do a couple things. It's going to combine all of those sections I mentioned previously, including the header, purpose, the scope, and those individual practices, into a single access control document that will then be saved to your local hard drive, so that you'll have a copy of it, as well as it's an important step prior to the next kind of feature and benefit of the platform. Moving on to policy assessment, this is where you'll come to analyze and assess your documentation, ensuring that it covers everything it needs to cover in order for your policy to be ready for CMMC. As I mentioned earlier on in the demo, maybe your organization is further along and you already have all of your existing policies in place. You certainly don't need to go create a policy in Policy Builder just to be able to utilize our policy assessment. I do recommend that you use a tool like this to ensure that people can miss certain things in your document. So you want another look and ensure that everything is covered. And of course, as standards update, as your documents evolve and update, you want to periodically reassess your documentation. So we'll go ahead and upload an access control policy here together. And once you've submitted it, you'll pretty quickly receive some different metrics surrounding that document. What you want to do is click on the detailed scorecard to bring up this pop-up here. We assess your document in a number of ways, both at a high level as well as a granular level. At the high level, the overall assessment for this particular document was that it appears relevant in size, scope, and organizational customization. The overall assessment is comprised of a couple different key metrics. We've got the relevance, which is how many key terms or phrases are included in your document. The higher that is, the higher the relevance, and therefore overall assessment is going to be. The model similarity compares the policy you've uploaded to our model documents. And we do that for two reasons. One, to ensure it's been appropriately customized to fit your organization. And number two, ensuring that it's covering everything it needs to cover. Finally, the word count just ensures that we have enough adequate context surrounding those key terms and phrases to accurately assess and analyze your document. So if you see that word count as too low, chances are the overall assessment and overall score might not necessarily be an accurate reflection of how your documents are doing. In terms of the overall score, here you can see it's a 70.7%. It is not like an academic score, meaning 90% as an A, 80% as a B, etc. Our overall scoring is a relevant scoring system, meaning anything above a 50% shows a relevant document. And we'll talk further on in the demo about how you can utilize the overall score along with some of the other metrics we provide you to gauge how your policies are doing currently as well as how they're doing over time. So that's the high level overview of the documentation, but we also provide some granular feedback, and this is exactly what's missing in your document and what you need to add to ensure that you're covering everything an access control policy needs to cover. And we do that through our key elements not included, or KENNY for short. We have two different types of KENNYs. We've got the control KENNYs as well as general policy terms. On here, my first example is CUI, non-public information. That's that key term or phrase that's missing in my document that I should be looking to include. We also provide the exact practice it's associated with. So in this case, it's tied to 3.1.22. If you're unfamiliar with what 3.1.22 is discussing, we provide the discussion language directly from the standard itself. So in this case, from CMMC, which is tied back to those NIST controls as well. The documents for examination are going to be other sorts of documents, records, or materials your organization might have that can help you address those control KENNYs. For example, it could be something like a security awareness training record. It could be system audit logs, maybe a security plan or a list of users. Again, any sort of document that relates to that particular control KENNY. The documents for examination can also be used as evidence and artifacts that you are indeed, once you've actually included this in your policy and you implemented it within your organization, these other documents can serve as evidence and artifacts that you have implemented it within your organization. The general policy KENNY terms are very similar in the sense that there are also key terms and phrases that are missing in my document. However, you'll notice there's no collapse all, expand all with that additional information. And the reason for that is these general policy KENNY terms are not tied to a specific practice. They're more generic to the policy domain you've uploaded into. You can also export these results into a PDF. So if you want to save these results, or share it with others who aren't added users on the platform, you can certainly do that by exporting it as well. Lastly, there's this management approval feature. So I'll go ahead and click this here in policy assessment. So after you've uploaded your document, you can, and once you're ready with your final version, you can management approve it, and we can talk about it further in our dashboard. So the dashboard is where you'll come to see all your progress and work throughout the platform, whether you're creating policies in Policy Builder or assessing policies in Policy Assessment. You'll see all of that work reflected here in the dashboard. Additionally, you'll notice here my latest policy that's been management approved in the green. We'll see which user approved it and when they approved it by. So when you need to show evidence, that body of evidence that your senior officials have approved of your policies, you can use Policy Pro as part of that body of evidence, as well as any previous versions. So you can show that you are periodically reviewing and updating your policies, and you can see any older versions here as part of that audit trail and body of evidence. You'll also notice all of those other metrics I mentioned previously, including the overall assessment, the control KENNY, and the general KENNYs, as well as that overall score. So the process will be to incorporate those kennies into your policy. As you work on reducing them down and incorporating them, you'll notice that overall score trending upwards. However, you do not need a specific score as long as it's above a 50%. The way I recommend utilizing the overall score is to gauge how your policies are doing over time, and that overall score should be trending upwards, along with the Kenny scoring, Kenny's reducing down over time. Lastly is our reference library. If you do need any additional information or assistance as you're working throughout the platform, and you just need some additional guidance about a particular topic, you can come here to our reference library, which contains various resources and links across the web, mostly directly from the NIST Institute, but it's a good way to quickly get the most relevant and accurate information that you need on a particular topic. For example, maybe one of your Kennys was related to VPNs and you're unsure how to address it in your policy. You can come to our reference library and select the appropriate link, which will take you to the NIST guidelines on VPNs. Again, it's a better way than trying to Google your way through various topics. You'll frequently find unverified or maybe outdated information on Google. So you just want to make sure you're getting the most up-to-date information on these various topics. Everything in today's demo was for level 2. However, if your organization does not create, transmit, process, or store CUI, you can also select level 1 here on the platform as well. So that's going to switch it to those 6 different policy families and those 15 controls. And maybe at a later time, your organization has a contract that does contain CUI. You can always swap back to the level 2 and work on the remaining policies. So hopefully you can see that this is a very helpful tool to help your organization actually get compliant with CMMC. Those policies are important to show that evidence that you are doing those things that you say your organization is doing, and keeping effective track of your policies is also important as well. So definitely check out a free trial of Policy Pro if you haven't. I'll also put the link into chat for where you can sign up. And Kevin's going to walk through a couple other things here, so I'm going to turn it over. Thanks everyone for taking a look at the demo, and I'll turn it over to you now, Kevin.
Thanks, David. So Joey and I have been answering questions and chat in the background. So hopefully those have been coming over to everybody. You get back on track here. All right, so Policy Pro is part of Exostar's CMMC Ready suite. This is a suite of applications and services that will allow organizations to be ready for that third-party assessment. It includes, as we went over today, Policy Pro. Its sister application is Certification Assistant. Now, Certification Assistant is the application that actually walks you through that NIST 800-171 assessment. It will take you through each of the 110 controls, ask you if you've got those, the determine if statements. Those are each of the different things in place to meet that particular control. It will ask you to, kind of upload your policy libraries that correspond to that, put in your implementation statements, point to the evidence of where you've actually done what kind of just said you did. And if it is one of the controls that requires periodic review and assessment, it'll also allow you to create tasks against those things. If you haven't opened or if you haven't met a particular control, it allows you to create that plan of action and milestone to go ahead and address that. So it really allows you to manage that overall CMMC program. Because please understand, that's really what this is. It is a program. This isn't going to be a, kind of a one-time fill out a spreadsheet thing. As part of an assessment, you're going to have to show evidence that you do these things, show evidence that you periodically review, etc. And CA is kind of that one place where you can gather all that information and also, kind of show that to the assessors when they come on site. Exostar also offers a cloud service to store, process, and transmit controlled unclassified information. That is our managed Microsoft 365 solution. That's a Teams enclave set up in Microsoft's Azure GCC High with an Exostar application embedded within it, which puts in place the controls, the monitoring, the gates, if you will, that enforces 85 of those 110 controls fully while you're there in the enclave. And then we'll point out, as part of our shared responsibility matrix, those areas that are part, that you'll need to take care of. And then those 85 of the 110 that Exostar does. If you're looking to engage with a third party to do an assessment for you, now this could be a C3PAO because you're good and you want somebody to come in and do that third party assessment, or if you just want somebody to take a look at where you are and see if you're ready to go that next step. Exostar has a number of partners that can offer those kinds of services as either within the Exostar toolset or just as a standalone service around that assessment. Now, Certification Assistant offers the ability to invite those partners in to work with you directly within Certification Assistant as you walk through that overall assessment. So this entire bundle is Exostar's CMMC Ready Suite. You can use all of it. You can use a portion of it. It really, it's up to you to determine what you'd like to do. Certification Assistant and Policy Pro, as we've covered today, both have free trials available. If you're a current Exostar customer, so maybe you're using Exostar credentials to work with a prime or to get your invoices and things like that paid through a particular prime, so you've kind of registered with Exostar's Managed Access Gateway. If you're in there and you've got a multi-factor authentication method, you can also sign up for a free trial of our Managed Microsoft 365 as well. Nicole, if you wouldn't mind putting up the exit poll while I kind of wrap everything up, I'd appreciate it. Now, I'd appreciate everyone taking a look and filling out the exit poll, please. This does give us some feedback on how we did today. It also asks if there are particular topics you'd like to see in our series of webinars that we do. And Exostar's series of webinars are about just educating the community on topics of interest, showing you how our tools can maybe help you in a particular area. These follow a regular schedule. We have a demonstration of our managed Microsoft 365 for CMMC every Thursday at 2 o'clock. You can come to our website and sign up to see a 30-minute slide presentation and demo of that solution. We have a sister webinar to what you saw today about Certification Assistant. And then we also offer a general topic CMMC webinar every month. Next week on October 6th, I'll be talking with a C3PAO, Kyle Lai, one of our partners, and his colleague, Layla Remmert, about the latest CFR and kind of where we are in the overall CMMC process. You can submit questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them as well. Also, on this slide, when you get this deck, there's a number of different references to additional material out there, as well as those links to those free trials that we've talked about. So I think, everybody, that kind of wraps up where we are. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I know everybody's time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending the time with David and myself today. So David, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks for that demonstration. That was great. Everybody have a great rest of the day, and everyone have a happy Halloween. Have a great day.